Hello everyone. Welcome to our YouTube channel. We are going to discuss an interesting topic, that is, history of Brazil. Let's start the topic. Brazil, known formally as the Federative Republic of Brazil, stands as the biggest country in South and Latin America. Its capital city is Brasilia. It borders all other countries and territories in South America except Ecuador and Chile and covers roughly half of the continent's land area. Brazil is a vast and diverse nation, bears a rich tapestry of history woven over millennia. Its story unfolds from the ancient cultures of its indigenous peoples to the transformative era of European colonization. In Brazil's pre-colonial era, a multitude of indigenous societies thrived across its diverse landscape, each contributing to the rich tapestry of the region. From the dense Amazon rainforest to the coastal areas and interior plains, these cultures developed unique ways of life, rooted in sustainable practices and profound connections to the land. Renowned civilizations like the Tupi and Guarani demonstrated remarkable seafaring skills, agricultural prowess, and spiritual beliefs, while advanced societies such as the Marajora and Tapajo left behind intricate earthworks and pottery, showcasing their cultural sophistication. Within these societies, complex social structures were shaped by leadership based on lineage, military prowess, or spiritual connections, while religion played a central role, celebrating nature's cycles and ancestral spirits. Despite the profound changes brought by European colonization, Brazil's indigenous heritage endures, with languages, traditions, and knowledge systems serving as a testament to their resilience and cultural vitality, enriching the nation's identity and history. In 1500, Portuguese Admiral Pedro Álvares Cabral expedition, bound for India, serendipitously landed on the shores of Brazil instead of their intended destination on the west coast of Africa. Encountering the hospitable Tupi tribe and the lush landscape, Cabral and his crew found themselves in an idyllic setting ripe for exploration and settlement. The Portuguese settlers established a plantation-based society in Brazil, centered around commercial estates known as fazendas. These estates relied on a labor force comprised of free but impoverished workers and a significant number of enslaved individuals, both African and indigenous, to cultivate various export crops. Initially confined to coastal regions, the colonists gradually expanded their presence inland as their sense of independence and confidence grew. In 1625, Brazil faced a significant challenge when Dutch invaders seized control of the colony. Despite expectations of support from Portugal, the colonists found themselves abandoned by their mother country. However, their resilience and determination led to the formation of their own army, ultimately driving out the Dutch invaders by 1654. This victory bolstered the colonists' self-confidence and fostered a more assertive attitude, prompting westward migration without royal approval. Governance in colonial Brazil was characterized by a relatively light touch from Portuguese authorities, who lacked the resources to exert strong control over their distant colony. As a result, day-to-day power largely rested with the wealthy plantation owners, who wielded considerable influence over local affairs. This sense of autonomy and self-reliance among the Brazilian population contributed to the dynamic and evolving nature of colonial society. The colonial period saw the blending of European, African, and indigenous cultures, giving rise to a uniquely Brazilian identity. Portuguese customs and language fused with African rhythms and indigenous traditions, shaping the cultural landscape of Brazil. Despite the hierarchical social structure imposed by the colonial authorities, elements of resistance and cultural resilience persisted among marginalized groups. The War of Independence in 1822 marked a turning point, stemming from events dating back to 1808 when Portugal's king sought refuge in Brazil from Napoleon's advancing forces, ultimately declaring Brazil a co-equal kingdom. Upon his departure back to Portugal, his son Pedro remained as Prince Regent, reluctant to embrace Portugal's democratic changes. When pressured to return to Portugal in 1821, Pedro defiantly declared Brazil's independence, buoyed by support from plantation owners and British opposition to Portuguese efforts to suppress the revolt. Pedro later assumed the title of emperor and reluctantly implemented a constitution in 1824, reflecting the aristocratic ideals favoring a plantation-based society. Despite their embrace of modernization, both father and son resisted abolishing slavery until 1888. Subsequent military revolts in 1899 led to the monarchy's downfall, with the new regime aiming for industrialization through immigration, although with limited political rights. The early years of the Brazilian Republic were marked by military dictatorship, with the army controlling both national and state affairs, suppressing press freedom and manipulating elections until civilians briefly took power in 1894. However, internal instability persisted due to economic crises and social unrest, including the Acre War and Brazil's involvement in World War I. Despite efforts to resolve border disputes and assert itself on the international stage, Brazil faced ongoing financial and political turmoil, leading to multiple rebellions. In 1930, Getulio Vargas seized power in a revolution, initially intended as a temporary measure but resulting in the establishment of his dictatorship, known as the Estado Novo era. Vargas's rule was marked by increased government repression and censorship. Brazil entered World War II in 1942, joining the Allies after facing retaliation from Axis powers. Vargas's dictatorship was eventually overthrown in 1945, leading to a brief period of democracy until his return to power in 1950 and subsequent suicide amid political crisis in 1954. Following the suicide of Vargas, Brazil experienced a series of interim governments until Juscelino Kubitschek took office in 1956, fostering a period of relative political stability and remarkable economic growth, highlighted by the construction of Brasilia in 1960. However, the resignation of Kubitschek's successor, Jânio Quadros, in 1961, paved the way for political turmoil, culminating in a military coup in 1964. Initially intended as a temporary measure, the regime gradually consolidated power, resorting to oppression and censorship to maintain control, even amidst economic prosperity in the early 1970s. Transition to democracy began in 1979 with the amnesty law, culminating in civilian rule in 1985 under José Sarney. Successive administrations faced economic challenges until Fernando Collor's impeachment in 1992. Fernando Henrique Cardoso's successful economic policies stabilized Brazil's economy, leading to his election in 1994 and 1998. The peaceful transfer of power to Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva in 2002 marked a milestone in Brazilian politics, but his successor, Dilma Rousseff, faced impeachment in 2016 amid political and economic crises. Michel Temer assumed presidency, only to be embroiled in corruption scandals alongside other political figures. The history of Brazil is a complex tapestry woven from the threads of indigenous heritage, European colonization, and African contributions. From the ancient civilizations of the Amazon to the modern metropolises of today, Brazil's story is one of resilience, diversity, and ongoing transformation. By exploring its past, we gain insight into the challenges and triumphs that have shaped this vibrant nation. This was History of Brazil. I hope you enjoyed it. Please, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel.